Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
And welcome into the Sunday Journal. I'm your host, Matt Pitta. Thanks for being with us today. We get together each week to talk about issues facing Cape Cod, the islands, and all of southeastern Massachusetts. Welcome into the program. Coming up in just a couple of days, Tuesday, in fact, a very important opening, the John F. Kennedy Hyannis Museum, getting ready for its highly anticipated annual special exhibit for 2015. And this year it's called Jack and Bobby Brothers First. Through more than 60 rare photographs, many from private collections, private letters, and through their own words, the exhibit will offer a close and memorable look at the loving and complex relationship between John F. Kennedy and his younger brother, Robert F. Kennedy. And joining us in studio today to talk about this is the director of the JFK Hyannis Museum, John Allen. It's always good to see you. John, thanks so much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. I'm glad to be here and excited to talk about our new exhibit.
This is really exciting, and I'm going to try to actually contain my excitement. I want to be the objective reporter on this, but it really is a real slice of American history, and obviously the connection here with the JFK Hyannis Museum and the Kennedys here on the Cape. So I'll have you start us out. Give us the broad brush overview of what this exhibit is about, then we'll kind of dig down into the details.
All right, very good. Well, what we've tried to convey through the text and the images and really the flow of the display is kind of a look through without losing any connection to Cape Cod, two individuals who happen to be brothers, and through their life, the intertwining of their family and professional lives and, frankly, their commitment to public service came together in a way that I don't think we've ever seen since. And with that, presenting to the visitor coming in an opportunity to get more intimate with that journey and understand, kind of what it really represents when you step back and look at the implications.
It's such a unique relationship on many levels. The president, John F. Kennedy, is elected in 1960, and then he chooses his brother to be the attorney general. And in terms of going back in time, John, you and I are probably both too young to remember exactly what was happening back then. But was there controversy at all to that, or was the media questioning, is it right to have your brother be the attorney general? What was happening at that point?
Well, I think the visibility of Bobby in the president's life started, obviously, most actively when he ran for Senate. So there was a little bit of a earlier on visibility and engagement. Obviously the process of being elected, also in his work after being elected, of seeing Bobby there. And I also feel that when you look at it, the context of the exhibit gives the bookends of the family and how that really kind of plays out through the execution of being the Attorney General.
Take us through a little bit of the exhibit. Being radio here, we are going to have some pictures after the opening. We'll have some pictures up on our website at CapeCod.com. But visualize for the listener this morning, John, what you're going to see as you go through this exhibit, which opens on Tuesday. All
right. Well, fine. Glad to. And I think the way to kind of think of the tour is we're really going to start at the very baseline of the both as young men in the family and intermix with siblings and photos of exercise and family events, including the parents. And then going through as they evolved in the military, there's a military for both acknowledged there. And obviously you've got tragedy with the loss of the older brother and heroism and with the PT-109 event with his brother, Bobby's brother, Jack. And moving right into the beginning of Bob and Jack, somewhat getting into the legislative side, the congressional side, with the president starting off as a congressman. So we'll go from that, and then we get into their lives of weddings. When they're both involved in their weddings, you'll see pictures of the family. You'll see, in fact, we have a video of the wedding, and they're toasting each other. So constantly in the sense of following their life before active public service, you see how much they were together and what they meant in each other's family lives. And obviously with oodles of kids on Bobby's side and the two children on the president, you see the engagement building out. And I think then we continue into the presidential and the Senate side, and you really see the political side as they're in the trenches doing the work of the campaign. And the moments of the famous November 8th election, and here in Hyannis with the Armory being the epicenter of what would be history's start of his presidency when he gave his acceptance speech, you clearly again see Hyannisport, the family, and the world history, the U.S. history, which became world history, taking place. And then leading to episodes, Matt, of showing goings on of the administration, of going on in some of the world events, and always in and out of Washington, Hyannisport, family between the two brothers, and then to the end, certainly wrapping into the loss of the president and the assassination. Then Bobby's next 4 years, where he basically comes into his own as a public official. And then the sad loss of Bobby, and it comes back, Matt, to the very end with kind of the listing and the details of what's happening now in the family, where the legacy is today.
It truly is a tragic story, a tragic American story, a tragic political story when you have these brothers who are so close, and both of them are cut down in basically the same manner. And, you can't even imagine what the pain that the family went through. That's been documented and detailed hundreds of times and in movies and books and what have you. But the exhibit you're calling it is Jack and Bobby Brothers First. I want to focus in on that, the aspect of Brothers First, and why that was decided to be the title, if you will, for the exhibit this year. What is it about that title, Brothers First?
Well, I feel it will be evident when you see the photos and you connect the narrative of the different panels, Matt. No doubt it showed that they relied on each other and were very entwined in each other's lives on many levels. And uniquely with the visibility of being a family that has, the stature they had then and have today as an iconic name. And then the other part is how much the work they did had important meaning. So, but at the base of it, when they were working, they worked together with a partnership that was forged as brothers, of a trusted advisor of Bobby, and an older brother who had an important mission to be supported too.
John, I know that the exhibit is about Jack and Bobby, and the exhibit is called Jack and Bobby Brothers First. And by the way, if you're just joining us today on the Sunday Journal, the JFK Kennedy Hyannis Museum Foundation and the museum itself opens the exhibit on Tuesday. It's open to the public on Tuesday, right? That's
correct.
The first time the public can see it.
It's open today and Monday, but so it's people come in and see it right now.
But the big kickoff, if you will,
the official is on Tuesday. So, John, John Allen is my guest as well, the executive director of the JFK Hyannis Museum. John, I wanted to delve a little bit more into this aspect of it and what your thoughts are as the executive director. You're obviously deeply involved with everything about the Kennedy family. So Jack and Bobby Brothers First, the name of the exhibit, obviously they had an extremely tight bond. Jack is elected president. Bobby becomes his attorney general. They obviously consult each other on literally world issues on a regular basis. In terms of the other brothers, obviously Joe had passed prior to this election. Ted is still coming up, if you will, younger at this point. So how do the four brothers kind of interact? Before Joe passes in World War II, and then you have Ted on the younger end of things. Were Jack and Bobby the real tight brothers? Was Ted on the outside or inside? What was the dynamics, if you will, of the brothers? That's an interesting observation. You'll again be able to see through the exhibit images. He was always visible.
Ted
was always visible in that storyline, and the engagement certainly from the president and Bobby, as you know, Bobby Attorney General, is with the two of them. But the events around that, when there are family there, Ted is very visible. And Ted is certainly, in his own way, as he moved on into the Senate, forging another step of the Kennedy legacy on public service. But on this case, as really for the people, in the work of the governance of the country.
When you take a look at this exhibit, John, we don't want to give it all away because I know you want people to go there. Are there going to be portions of this exhibit that people walk in and say, I never knew that, or they'll be either shocked or surprised? Are there portions of this exhibit that even people like myself who follow the Kennedys will say, wow, did not know that?
I think so, Matt. I think, thinking of you and the times I've seen you at the museum, and obviously for many years, the most important part is, I think, connecting dots. When you follow the image and the presentation, the connecting of dots will become the bigger picture, and the context of what you might have seen all of a sudden has a much deeper and richer meaning to you personally. And I hope, secondly, that as you would come in, or anyone would come in with that we've added the ability to have you have a deeper connection with that memory and a more significant connection with that memory. Because at the end of the day, and I've shared this in the past, we have to make sure, whether you're 4 or 94, that you're being educated around this story of this legacy and these two individuals in this exhibit. And I really feel that will be very evident in that.
You bring up an interesting point that leads me to this question. Do you have to design an exhibit like this so that if somebody comes in from, they're vacationing with the family from Ohio, they haven't been here before, and they have a cursory knowledge about the Kennedy family, but they say, I want to learn more. Do you have to design the exhibit to a level in which they don't have to have a lot of Kennedy knowledge for them to walk in and take a look at it and understand what's going on?
Without a doubt. How
do you do that? What's the challenge with that?
Well, obviously we had a professional, Roger Westerman, as our exhibit designer, who has very deep experience with historical museums. And part of the focus today, and I've learned this in this process, is that the exhibit presents a participatory type of a presentation that you can, through the images, through the text, you can start getting a feel of what is being said and what is being represented there, that hopefully tweaks your interest to pick up a book and maybe do more research or become more engaged with it. And then secondly, so that it becomes relevant too, that you can connect the importance of that to whether it was historical or it was maybe their public service reputation. So it really can resonate through that. And I feel we have done that. I'm a little bit biased, but seeing the reaction this past weekend in this, being open yesterday and today, and seeing and talking to individuals, and some who were there are people who didn't have a big connection with Kennedy. They did come out.
As you were involved in putting this together, John, was there anything that surprised you as you were working on putting this collection together, either photographs or any type of vignettes or anything like that you learned that you were surprised about?
Well, probably enlightened was more the word. What was surprised is how much Bobby did behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes in the family or politically?
In the presidency.
In the presidency.
Yeah.
Okay. That's been debated and discussed a lot through documentaries and movies. So are you saying that you think that perhaps there was maybe more involvement in the presidency than we probably really realize at this point?
I think it was, you can see in some of the images, just times together. I think the president, and this has been documented in books, the president took counsel from lots of folks. But he made his own decision, and sometimes didn't go with the decision of what was a consensus.
Do you think that decision, did he consult with Bobby on a lot of the big decisions, or at the end of the day, was it Jack that made the final decision?
Oh, I think Jack made the call, without a doubt.
At the end of the day.
I have my own sense of that. But I do know that if there was a last word, that he would seek, it would be from his brother. In watching this, and certainly there's history that could be proving that in different episodes or different incidents. But for the most part, he was there. He might have been part of, here's where you should look, here's what we should be thinking of, here are the facts. Maybe he helped scope things out. In some cases, you sometimes use a front person to go in and kind of set the stage, and then the president would come in. So I think there was some choreographing that they did together for some of the president's work.
Let me ask you this, John, as we come close to the conclusion here. John Allen is my guest today, the executive director of the JFK Hyannis Museum. Their exhibit formally opens on Tuesday. It is called Jack and Bobby, Brothers First. This was a time period that was towards the end of their father's life, but what does their father kind of fit in here in terms of relationships? Did the two brothers, were they tight with the father? Was Ted also tied in with the father? Was the father still influencing them at that point? Because their father is just an enormous figure that sometimes people don't realize. They see the public faces of Ted, Bobby, of Jack, of the other Kennedy families, but they don't necessarily know what kind of real influence the father had.
Yeah. Well, I think for the listeners, there's some great reading material that you would get on that, and on the role of Joe Kennedy Sr. I would say this to your question. You can see it in the imagery there of the events where there's family. You would see the Rose and Joe Sr. there with the family, and there's been certainly some of the documented episodes early on, particularly when Jack was starting out. The father was a little hard on Jack Kennedy on things, but his focus on expenses, his focus on the organization, his focus on execution of the dad, you knew that he got that from his father. What he got from Bobby in that is Bobby had the president basically could use Bobby to divert his father's instant involvement and have it, frankly, go through Bobby as the filter.
Interesting.
And that's been documented in different stories that I've read.
And not unlike any typical family dynamic,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, John, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for stopping in, as always, today to talk about this exhibit. It formally opens to the public on Tuesday. It is called Jack and Bobby, Brothers First, the summer exhibit for the John F. Kennedy Hyannis Museum. And we're looking forward to seeing you in a couple of days, John. And thanks for coming in today, and best of luck this summer with the exhibit.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing our visitors, and I'm there if they have questions.
Sounds good. Thanks, John. You're listening to the Sunday Journal. Thanks for being with us on this segment. I'm your host, Matt Pitta.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.